I, 34M, work in a small office and we have about 30 people working here. Mary, 35F, is one of my coworkers. We have been working together for 6 years now. We have 6 people in our department, and we have to frequently travel across the state as our work involves overseeing government projects. We always travel in a group of 2. Although my travel partner changes based on the project, Mary and I are generally put on similar projects and enjoy each other's company. My wife also likes Mary. Overall, we have a very healthy work relationship. On to the incident. Yesterday, we had a happy hour in our office, and we were all drinking after work hours and chatting. It was a group of around 10 people that stayed back. Mary was blabbering about how we both have been traveling together so much in the last year. She was roasting me for my habits while traveling, like always forgetting stuff in my hotel room, being sweaty and stinky when I join her for breakfast in mornings because I go to hotel gym. Everyone was laughing and she was making it sound how unbearable I was to tag along, all in good fun. I also told some funny and sweet stories about her and agreed with her, saying that I can be difficult to be with sometimes. Mary came to me and hugged me tightly and told me that she loves me and I am her work husband. It was all innocent on surface, but she might have been a bit drunk and just didn't let go of her tight hug. Also, I hate that phrases "I do have a wife that I promise to be with forever" and not just in non-working hours. After a few seconds, I started becoming uncomfortable and also saw a few people staring at us. So, to diffuse the situation, I took her hands off my shoulder and told her she was my work sister and that is why I love to annoy her so much. That seemed to have upset Mary and she left and went back to her desk and was sobbing silently. I tried to apologize to her, but she told me how embarrassing the whole situation was. She said that she just meant work husband in a platonic way, but me calling her work sister made her sound like a creep in front of the whole office. She was also angry that I aggressively removed her hands from my shoulders while hugging. I tried to reason with her that I do not like the work husband phrase, and also people gave dirty looks when she said it. So, I was just trying to make sure people do not take her words in the wrong way. We talked for a few minutes afterwards and Mary calmed down. She hugged me again and left. I felt really guilty afterwards because I can see Mary's point. I made her sound like a creep by implying that she meant something inappropriate when she called me her work husband. However, I was a bit uncomfortable in that situation and just did not want people to call us that or assume something wrong. Am I the AH for calling Mary my work sister? I am sitting in my office writing this and a bit worried if I embarrassed Mary in front of everyone. Relevant comments. Commenter. Your NTA. All too often, work spouses end up being inappropriately involved, and you were trying to head off any rumors. Good on you. I think work sister is a much better term. Commenter. You didn't do anything wrong. NTA. To my mind, she raises a red flag by being so upset about it. It meant more to her than it did to you. You may need to set a boundary of not traveling with her. Commenter. NTA, though, you were being far too generous. The reason why she jumped straight to thinking you were calling her a creep, because she knows what she was doing was inappropriate. Work husband is considered widely inappropriate now. She knows this. You responded correctly. You owe your actual wife loyalty. Mary needs to back off and act more of a professional. Commenter. NTA. I think you were justified that whole time. Unfortunately, alcohol can make things awkward for everyone, but you were made uncomfortable by the extended hug, so you removing her arms from you is understandable. The problem is right now is that Mary is only considering her own feelings and not thinking at all how her actions made you feel. She did think that such a public display of affection might make a married man uncomfortable. She is only thinking that you made her look like a creep. And, let's be honest, she did kind of look like someone hitting on a married man after drinking too much. Commenter. NTA. Work sister is 100% a compliment. Work husband is the stuff that will get a person reported to HR. Mary is waving bright red flags. You might want to get ahead of this now. All your colleagues are suspicious. No more being paired with Mary. Consider telling your wife before one of them does. Commenter. The best way to know that you needed to set a limit was her overreacting. Sobbing at her desk? It was time to stop it. 1. Don't give her any extra attention for her outburst. Just cheerfully go about your day. Say good morning. Joke about your favorite TV show. Don't take any bait. 2. If she tries to bring it up again, repeat what you said. She's a great coworker, but you only have one wife, so you don't do the work wife jokes. Nothing personal, but it's not for you. 3. If she brings it up a second time, you'll need to email your supervisor to get written documentation. You just describe what happened, as you did above, when and where, and that you'd like them to informally coach her on letting it go. 4. If she brings it up a third time, you'll need to go to HR and ask to be taken off projects involving travel with her. I really hope she can pull it together and that she can join you in cheerfully going back to work. But remember that it's her making this weird, not you, and your first responsibility is to preserve your own employment. Editor's note. I looked through the comments and didn't find a single white TA, ESH, or NH. It was universally NTA. Update 2. I posted about calling my coworker Mary my work sister after she tried to call me her work husband in front of the entire office. A lot of you are asking for update, so I am writing it here. Thanks everyone for your comments and giving me confidence that I did not do anything wrong or inappropriate. As I was sitting in office the next day, I knew things would be a bit awkward between Mary and me. Mary ignored me the whole morning. Initially, I was planning to go and apologize to her, but after the post, I decided that I do not need to do that as I should be the one who was offended. Everyone in the office could see that we were acting weird, and I heard some people gossiping about us. One of the ladies also came to me and asked me if I want to talk about Mary and me. Around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I was sitting in my office working. Mary came into my office and closed the door behind her. She was angry at me and started saying that I need to stop being an asshole and stop ignoring her. I told her to sit and to talk about what is going on. She told me that she feels humiliated, and everyone has been starting at her the whole morning because of what I did. I also stood my ground and told her that I was okay with her making fun of me, but calling me her work husband and hugging me in front of everyone for a long time made the situation awkward. She told me to get over myself and that I should know exactly what she meant. Mary said that I made a big deal of what was supposed to be a joke and made it awkward for everyone. She said calling someone work husband is a normal thing and just means that she knows me intimately like a spouse would. She said that because we spend so much time traveling together, she knows all the intimate details of how I behave outside work. I stopped her and told her that I felt offended by the term work husband because I have a wife, and I do not want people to use that term to describe our relationship. I told her that she would not understand as she is single, but as a married man, I really do not want anyone to describe me as a husband in any capacity. She said that I am again misinterpreting what she was saying. She felt that as we have known each other more time than I have been married, she knows me more intimately than even my wife. I have no idea why she feels that way, and I also behave like her husband when we travel together. She went on about how we go out to dinners together after work, how I always insist on having breakfast together in morning to plan our actions of the day, and I walk around in my underwear, referring to my gym shorts, around her in mornings. She also talked about how we spend hours talking to each other during road trips and how I am the only man she can trust with any secret in her life. She said that I am the definition of work husband, and I am just in denial. I was a bit angry at this point. I told her that I do all that because I consider her my friend, and she is delusional if she feels she knows me more intimately than my wife. I told her I do not want to hear that term again, and it is extremely disrespectful to my marriage. Only one woman gets to call me her husband, and that is my wife. Moreover, if my actions are giving her such ideas, maybe we need to stop being friends. She became apologetic afterwards and told me that she did not mean to disrespect my wife, and it was not her intention. She apologized to me and told me to just let it go. She said that she loves traveling with me, and she does not want anything to change between us. She again said that I am misinterpreting her statement and just wants to move on. She came to hug me again, but I just told her it was okay and stepped back. I also talked to my wife about the incident that night. As expected, my wife was angry at Mary and told me that she hates the term work husband. She asked me if Mary has ever flirted with me during our trips or has a crush on me. I truthfully told her that I really have not felt that way, and she may have just said that because she was a bit drunk and is now being stubborn about it. My wife said that she feels a bit uncomfortable about Mary now and says that it's strike one for Mary and I need to try and put more distance between us while traveling. If she ever repeat the same behavior again, I should report her to HR. I promised my wife that I would try to reduce my interactions with Mary outside work hours and be more guarded around her. Relevant comments. Commenter. Mary's description of your relationship sounds really clingy and dependent. She has created a narrative in her head about your connection. The only man she can trust with any secret in her life that's not a work husband, whatever that means. You better keep your interactions register and public. This can bite you in the butt very fast. Commenter. NTA. I agree you should go to HR so they're aware of the situation. I would also suggest no more business trips with her, if possible. The fact that she claims to know you more intimately than your wife is not only delusional and disrespectful, it's concerning. She's only beginning to show her crazy side. Commenter. NTA. I also think that if you're married, the terms work husband/wife are very inappropriate. Your wife sounds like a very reasonable person. She's upset but not taking it out on you. You made the right call, and if anything, you could even get ahead of the game by going to HR now about the situation. Just curious, but what would the HR complaint even be? I feel uncomfortable about the situation, but beyond speculation, I do not see what I can complain about. Commenter. Hey HR person, I would like to file something with you just so it's on record. At the moment it feels like things are resolved, but just in case something else happens in the future, I just want to cover all bases. Here's what happened. Here's what I did about it. Here's what Mary's response was. Here's where things are at now. I don't want anyone to have another conversation with her at this time because I believe it will escalate things instead of letting things die down. But if she doesn't let things go, I wanted HR to be in the loop. Commenter. NEA, I agree with you, wife. Mary's reaction was so off and defensive. Instead of owning it and apologizing, she continued to double down and say that SHE knew you more intimately. She is quite the presumptuous woman. I 100% believe that this woman has romantic feelings for you, and all these comments about work husband and the ever-lingering hug plus saying she knows you better and more intimately do not speak of someone who has a platonic friendship or professional relationship in mind. I would not travel with her anymore, and see if you can put some distance with her and not have to work with her. This woman is going to cause trouble for you. Her reaction was one of possession over you, which comes when someone has amorous feelings. Commenter. Okay, never, and I do mean never, be in a room alone with this woman ever again. Because when you go to HR, and you definitely should, in retaliation she could spin any number of accusations against you now. Even if you don't think she is capable of that kind of behavior, you're having trouble right now because she is acting in a manner you would not have expected from her. Thanks everyone for the comments and explaining the urgency of the situation. I discussed it with my wife and have set up meetings with my manager and HR today. I plan to not file a complaint, but document what happened last week and why it made me uncomfortable. I do not have any upcoming travels this week due to holidays, but have to travel next Tuesday with her to a work site. I will discuss with my manager on what my options are. However, I feel a little distance between Mary and me for some time would be the right solution for now. Update 3. I wrote a while ago regarding my coworker friend, Mary, being upset with me for calling her my work sister when she called me her work husband in front of everyone. I'm sorry to leave everyone hanging, but the next few weeks were busy, and the issue was eventually resolved. Thanks to everyone for the comments, they really helped me when I talked to my manager about the situation. However, the last week has been crazy, so I wanted to get some opinions on what I should do next. After my last post, my wife and I were no longer comfortable with Mary's behavior. Although a part of me thought I was overreacting and that it was just part of Mary's personality, I felt the need to protect myself. I requested a meeting with my manager and HR to document my side of the story. I wrote down everything and told them about the incident at the party, as well as Mary coming into my office and the comments she made. I made it clear that while I did not want them to take action against her, I wanted to emphasize that her behavior made me uncomfortable, especially her comments about knowing me better than my wife and remarks about my shorts. My manager had already heard about the incident at the happy hour, as everyone in the office was talking about it. He told me he would try to shake up the travel schedule to minimize our travel together. The issue was that only 4 people in our company generally work on off-site audits, and the other 2 co-workers did not want to split up because they claimed they worked well together. As a result, I continued traveling with Mary for the next couple of weeks, but it was awkward, and I kept my distance. My manager then called Mary and me to his office and informed us that he was planning to train a new auditor, Carolina, 26F, and set up a schedule where she would travel with me for 1 week and then with Mary the following week. We were asked to train her. I liked this arrangement because it meant I no longer had to travel with Mary. Carolina turned out to be a great travel buddy, and I made sure not to get too comfortable with her. I always dressed professionally when we went for breakfasts, avoided late-night drinks, and maintained healthy boundaries. Things were great until last week. Last Tuesday, I could feel everyone staring at me when I entered the office, and I was immediately called to a meeting with my manager and HR. HR asked if I had anything to report regarding Carolina and if she had made any advances toward me during our work trips. I told them no, that Carolina had been very professional the entire time. I asked why I was being interrogated, and they told me they couldn't disclose any further details, but that Carolina was being investigated by HR for inappropriate conduct. I left the meeting, and Mary came to my office, asking what had happened. She mentioned that she was also told Carolina would no longer be traveling with us and that we were asked to travel together again. I told her I had no idea what was going on. I messaged Carolina to see if she was okay and if she needed to talk. She asked if she could come to my office, and I agreed. Carolina explained that someone anonymously sent messages to her boyfriend, posing as someone from the office over the weekend. The message included screenshots of Carolina sending some inappropriate pictures she had taken in her hotel rooms during our travels and flirtatious messages. This person claimed to her boyfriend that Carolina was trying to cheat with him at work, and he was just trying to warn them. Her boyfriend went crazy after seeing the pictures, ghosted her, and then sent the messages to HR as revenge. Carolina was in tears, telling me that she had only taken those pictures for her boyfriend and had no idea how they got leaked or how those messages even existed. Her boyfriend was furious because he also received the exact pictures from Carolina and knew they weren't fake. I consoled Carolina, but she's in deep trouble, as our workplace takes such things very seriously because we work on government contracts, and I'm sure everyone suspects I am the anonymous messenger. I was told that the matter would be investigated, and Mary and I would be working together on the project again. My manager said there was nothing he could do and also mentioned that they might go through my emails and messages on my company phone as part of the investigation into Carolina. Mary seems very happy about the whole situation and keeps talking about how excited she is to revisit the restaurants and bars we used to frequent during offsite trips. She also keeps referring to Carolina as that pervert. The whole thing is just crazy. My wife, of course, believes that I would never do anything inappropriate with Carolina and that I wasn't the anonymous messenger. However, her conspiracy theory is that Mary, who was also traveling with Carolina, may have unlocked her phone and accessed the photos. It feels far-fetched, but the fact is, I'm not thrilled about traveling with Mary again. I don't think I have any other recourse to get off this project except leaving the job, which isn't possible at this time. I know many of you work in HR, and I would appreciate any advice on what I can do next. Relevant comments. Commenter. It was totally Mary. That's both terrifying and so creepy. I feel really bad for Carolina. I do not work in HR, but I would absolutely report again to your manager what Mary has been saying regarding the trips and her turn of phrase about Carolina as the situation continues. Write down her phrases and comments with dates and timestamps. You need to set very hard walls with Mary. Only ever contact her on your work phone and ensure you are not alone together unless it's in a very public place, preferably with cameras. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, but I'm really glad you and your wife's relationship has not been affected by it. Stay strong. You did nothing wrong here. Commenter. Make sure to block Mary on your personal phone so she can only contact you on your work phone. Turn it off after hours and on weekends so there's no way she can reach you outside of business hours. Also, might be a good time to change all passwords and make them not easy to guess so Mary can't hack you like she did Carolina. Commenter. Whatever you do, shut Mary out unless it's for work. Do not utter a word to her unless it's work-related. Mary absolutely is behind this because she wants to be your partner in every sense of the word. Do not ever trust Mary. She will use anything and everything you say to further her desires. She's bunny boiling crazy. Update for first off, I want to thank everyone who commented on my last update. Your advice and support really helped me stay grounded as things escalated, but I honestly didn't expect just how out of hand things were about to get. After Carolina came to my office crying and explaining her situation, I knew I needed to be extra careful. I took your advice and documented everything that was happening, especially when it came to Mary. I was suspicious, but without proof, I couldn't do much other than protect myself. Things were awkward in the office for the next few days, and I noticed people whispering around me, throwing glances my way like I had something to do with the whole Carolina situation. I was doing my best to lay low, but Mary? Oh, she was thriving. It was like she couldn't wait for us to start traveling again together. She kept dropping hints about how we should pick up where we left off and revisit some of our old haunts. I just kept smiling and giving non-committal answers because, frankly, the thought of being alone with her made me uneasy. Then last Thursday, things got real weird. We were in a staff meeting, just the usual weekly rundown. Out of nowhere, Mary volunteers to give a presentation about a project we're both working on, one that involves some upcoming travel. She pulls out a slideshow, and I kid you not, one of the slides had a picture of us from 2 years ago at a work event. It wasn't anything scandalous, just a group shot, but she singled it out and said something along the lines of, "This is why I trust my work husband so much. We've been through thick and thin together." The room went dead silent. I could feel my face burning, and I noticed a few co-workers exchanging looks. I made a point of not looking at anyone, especially not at her. I could feel the tension rising, and I knew something had to give soon. Later that day, I got an unexpected call from Carolina. She said she needed to meet up outside of work. At this point, I figured I needed to hear her out, so I agreed. We met up at a coffee shop after work, and that's when things took a serious turn. Carolina had been digging into her phone situation, and she found some disturbing stuff. Apparently, she noticed some weird activity on her phone the weekend the photos were leaked, like her phone syncing to a device that wasn't hers. She brought it to a tech-savvy friend of hers, and they were able to trace some of the activity back to, guess who? Yep, Mary. Now, I don't know how the hell Mary managed to pull this off. Whether she guessed Carolina's passwords or found a way to access her phone while they were traveling, it's still unclear. But what Carolina did have was proof of the unauthorized syncs and suspicious activity. She was preparing to go to HR with this information, but wanted to give me a heads up because, well, we were all tangled up in this mess now. I was stunned, but honestly, not surprised. The pieces were falling into place. Mary had been acting increasingly possessive, and it was clear she didn't like Carolina. Sabotaging Carolina's relationship? Leaking her private photos to HR? This wasn't just some office drama, this was a full-blown vendetta. I knew I needed to act fast, so the next day I went straight to my manager and told him everything. My growing concerns about Mary's behavior, Carolina's discovery about her phone, and my suspicions that Mary was behind the leaked photos. I also asked for a formal investigation to be opened. My manager seemed shocked but agreed that it was serious enough to involve HR immediately. I wish I could say that's where it ended, but no, this is where it gets really messy. That evening, I get a knock on my door. It's Mary. She's standing there, in tears. She says she just needs to talk and that she can't handle the guilt anymore. My wife was home, so I stepped outside to hear her out, but I knew something was seriously wrong. Mary starts rambling about how she's done something terrible and that she's scared she'll lose everything. I asked her, point blank, if she had anything to do with Carolina's situation, and then she admitted it. She said she was hurt when I pulled away from our friendship and that she felt replaced by Carolina. She couldn't stand the idea of me working so closely with someone else. So, she took matters into her own hands. She admitted to accessing Carolina's phone while they were traveling, copying the photos, and sending them to Carolina's boyfriend to stir up trouble. She broke down, saying she didn't mean for things to get this far, but she just wanted to get things back to the way they were between us. I was floored. I told her that what she did was not only completely insane but potentially criminal. She kept begging me not to go to HR, saying it was a mistake. But at this point, it was out of my hands. I told her she needed to leave and that I was going to report everything she just told me to HR immediately. Now, here's the kicker. The next morning, I get into work, and guess who doesn't show up? Mary. I don't know if she's running or what, but her desk is cleared out. She's not answering her phone, and HR is apparently investigating the entire situation. Carolina is still dealing with the fallout from her boyfriend, but she's grateful I came forward with what I knew. As for me, I've requested to work remotely for the time being. I'm done with this circus. My wife is fully aware of everything, and we're both just trying to process how crazy things have gotten. I don't know where Mary is or what's going to happen next, but I have a feeling this isn't over. HR is conducting their investigation, and there's talk that this could escalate legally. I'll keep you posted if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just hoping to stay out of the drama and keep my job intact. Update 5. Alright, everyone. I can't believe I'm back here again, but things have taken yet another unexpected turn. I thought the last update was as chaotic as it could get, but apparently, the universe had other plans. I don't even know where to start, but I'll try to lay it all out as clearly as possible. So, after I posted the last update, I spent the next couple of days working remotely. My manager approved my request to stay away from the office while HR conducted their investigation into Mary. Carolina had already filed her formal complaint, and it seemed like the whole company was buzzing with rumors. My wife and I were trying to move on from the insanity, but then I got a call that threw everything back into chaos. It was my manager. He called to let me know that Mary had returned, and not just quietly. She came back to the office with a lawyer. Apparently, Mary is now trying to sue the company for defamation and wrongful termination, even though she technically hadn't been fired yet. She claimed that the company was creating a hostile work environment by allowing me and Carolina to spread false allegations about her. I have no idea how she thinks this is going to work, considering she literally admitted everything to me, but it looks like she's going all in on this fight. Here's where things get really wild. As part of her defense, Mary has been telling people that I was the one who actually leaked the photos of Carolina. She's trying to flip the script, saying that I framed her because I was trying to cover up my own inappropriate behavior with Carolina. You read that right. She's accusing me of being the one who accessed Carolina's phone and sent the pictures to her boyfriend. She's claiming that I was upset about Carolina rejecting me, which, let me remind you, never happened because we were 100% professional the entire time, and that I blamed Mary because I knew she would be an easy target. She's trying to paint herself as the victim of some twisted plot. Now, you might be wondering, how is anyone even believing this? Well, the truth is, some people are starting to buy into her story. A few of my coworkers, those who were always closer to Mary, are saying things like, "It's weird that he's been traveling with all these women and something finally went wrong. And why would Mary do something like that after all these years?" Meanwhile, Carolina and I are just standing here like, what the actual hell? My wife is furious, as you can imagine. She's ready to go scorched earth on Mary and anyone who dares to believe this nonsense. She's been 100% supportive of me throughout this whole situation, but she's starting to lose patience with how long it's dragging out. And honestly, I don't blame her. I'm at my wit's end too. After getting off the phone with my manager, I knew I had no choice but to lawyer up. I contacted a lawyer that evening and explained the situation. He agreed that things were getting out of hand and advised me to start gathering all the evidence I had, including the documentation I'd already given to HR. He also suggested that I ask HR for access to the office's security footage and any emails or text between Mary and me that they might have archived. The next day, I reached out to HR again, letting them know about Mary's new allegations. They assured me that they were taking everything seriously and that the investigation was still ongoing, but I could tell they were feeling the pressure too. No one in the office wants to be dealing with a lawsuit, and it seems like Mary's return with her lawyer has thrown everyone off balance. Then, something completely unexpected happened. Yesterday, I got an anonymous email. No subject line, no name, just a message that said, "You're not the only one she's done this to. Be careful." Attached to the email were screenshots of text between Mary and another former coworker, a guy named Jake who left the company about 2 years ago. The messages were alarming, to say the least. In the texts, Mary was clearly flirting with Jake, calling him her work husband, and saying things like, "No one understands me like you do." Jake was trying to shut it down, but Mary kept pushing, and eventually, it seemed like their dynamic became uncomfortable for him. The last few messages were from Jake saying he was quitting because the situation was too toxic. It hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't the first time Mary had gotten too close to a male coworker, and now, she was trying to flip the narrative to make herself look like the victim again. I forwarded the email and screenshots to my lawyer and HR. This is a huge development, and it's clear that Mary has a history of crossing boundaries and then flipping the situation when things go wrong. But I still don't know who sent me the email or why they waited so long to come forward. As of right now, HR is doing their best to sort through all of this. Carolina is still trying to clear her name, and I'm stuck in this limbo of defending myself while Mary continues to spin her web of lies. I don't know how this is going to end, but at this point, I'm prepared for anything. My lawyer is on standby. My wife is keeping a close eye on everything, and I'm just trying to stay sane. I don't know if this will end with lawsuits, firings, or both, but one thing is for sure. There's no way I'm ever working with Mary again. Update 6. After receiving that anonymous email with the damning text between Mary and Jake, I immediately sent everything over to HR and my lawyer, like I mentioned before. For the next few days, things were eerily quiet in the office. I was still working remotely, but from what my coworkers told me, it was like walking on eggshells for everyone. No one knew what was going to happen, and the tension was palpable. Meanwhile, Mary had gone totally MIA. No emails, no phone calls, no appearances at the office. Her lawyer had supposedly been in touch with HR, but as far as I knew, she hadn't shown up for any more meetings. Honestly, it felt like the calm before the storm. Then, out of nowhere, I got another call from my manager, asking me to come into the office for a meeting with HR, Mary, and her lawyer. My lawyer advised me to go, but to keep it professional, so I showed up to the office, mentally prepared for a showdown. I walked into the conference room, and the tension was thick. Mary was sitting there, looking completely different from the person I'd known all these years. She was pale, disheveled, and had this look of defiance mixed with desperation in her eyes. Her lawyer was by her side, looking just as uncomfortable. HR kicked things off by asking Mary to explain her side of the story again. She launched into a long, winding explanation about how she had felt betrayed by me, how Carolina and I had conspired against her, and how she had been pushed out of the work dynamic we'd once had. It was the same nonsense she'd been spinning for weeks, but now it was clear she was trying to position herself as the victim of some grand plot. Then, my lawyer calmly slid the screenshots from Jake's texts across the table. Mary's face drained of color. Her lawyer quickly skimmed through them, and you could see the air being sucked out of the room. Mary was speechless for the first time since this whole ordeal started. HR, sensing the shift, asked Mary to explain the texts. She stammered, claiming that Jake had misunderstood her, that she was just being friendly. But at that point, it was clear to everyone what had been going on. She had pulled this same work husband nonsense with another coworker, and it had ended with him leaving the company. The pattern was undeniable. And then came the bombshell. HR dropped a final piece of evidence they'd been holding onto an IT audit of the office network. It showed that Mary had accessed Carolina's phone through an unsecured Bluetooth connection during one of their work trips. The digital trail was there in black and white. Mary was the one who had stolen Carolina's photos and sent them to her boyfriend. There was no way out for her. Mary completely broke down. She started sobbing, denying everything at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. Her lawyer, realizing there was no salvaging this, leaned over and quietly advised her to stop talking. HR then informed her that she was being terminated effective immediately for gross misconduct, and they would be pursuing legal action for breach of privacy and reputational damage to the company. But the drama wasn't over just yet. As Mary was being escorted out of the building by security, yes, that happened, she turned to me, tears streaming down her face, and screamed, "This isn't over. You ruined my life. I loved you." The entire office, which had gathered in stunned silence, heard her meltdown. I didn't respond. What was there to say? She was spiraling, and at this point, she was her own worst enemy. After she was gone, HR sat me down for a private conversation. They were deeply apologetic for how long this had dragged on, and they assured me that Mary's termination would be the final chapter in this mess. They offered me the option to work remotely indefinitely if I felt uncomfortable returning to the office full-time, but I declined. I wasn't going to let her toxic behavior drive me out of my workplace. I'd earned my spot there, and I wasn't about to give it up. Carolina, on the other hand, was reinstated with a clean slate. HR recognized that she had been the victim in all of this, and they made it clear that they would support her however she needed moving forward. She and I touched base afterward, and while she's still dealing with the fallout from her personal life, she's grateful that the truth finally came out. As for my wife, she was waiting for me at home with a bottle of champagne. We celebrated the end of this nightmare together, and for the first time in weeks, we felt like we could breathe again. I told her everything that had happened in the meeting, and we both agreed that Mary had clearly been unhinged from the start, but we hadn't seen it. Now, a week later, things are finally settling down. Mary has been completely removed from the company's records, and no one is allowed to contact her for any work-related reasons. Rumor has it she's left the city, but I honestly don't care at this point. I've moved on, and I'm focusing on rebuilding my professional relationships and getting back to normal. Carolina and I still work together occasionally, but we've made sure to maintain clear boundaries, and my manager has been incredibly supportive. The whole company, really, has rallied around me in the aftermath, and while it's been awkward at times, I'm relieved that it's over.